welcome to the first episode of the Best Available Podcast. This is Ryan Wallace, and I'm joined by my co-host, the co-founder, the co-star, whatever you want to add after that, Matt DeLuca. So before we get into what this podcast is about, which is sports and entertainment and other fun stuff, I thought it would be good for us to talk to you guys about what Best Available Player is. Since we, as you can probably tell, our podcast name is a play off of the brand name. Matt is one of the co-founders. So before we go any further, Matt, we're recording this at 11:10 on Sunday night. So we're kind of big shots. This is when all the big guys record their podcasts.
Big J journalists.
This is the first time we've recorded anything this late since we were at WMCX one night. It was about this time, and we played some Hannah Montana on the radio. I think it was after a basketball game. I have the Snapchat still on my phone somewhere. So it's fun recording this late. But Matt, what is Best Available Player? How did this entire project come about?
Well, it started out as a quarantine project, Ryan. You hit me up back in I guess it was like March or April, asking if we wanted to do a podcast, and then that kind of expanded into this umbrella network with all of our friends and colleagues to get kind of articles, podcasts, video content to really bring the best minds together. We went to school with some really, really smart people, whether we have, our friends designing our website to people writing articles. We brought together some of the best, and it's going to be really exciting to put out a lot of content for a lot of different sports, especially things that don't get a lot of coverage in mainstream media today. So it's an exciting venture to do it with your friends also. So just excited to get started.
Yeah, I want to stress this a lot, that this wasn't something that we just threw together in a couple of weeks. We're like, okay, let's see if this works. This has been in the works for months. I approached Matt first with the podcast logo. I was like, okay, how about we do this? And ultimately, we could not use the podcast name that I wanted to use. It was our college radio show name, because someone's already doing a podcast and they're doing pretty good with it. So shout out to those guys. It's called The Warm Up. But then it I guess maybe several days, a week later, Matt had asked, hey, do you want to write articles to go along with the podcast? I was like, sure, that sounds like a good idea. And it just really grew from there. And Matt touched on the incredible team that we were able to put together. I really want to shout them out. First of all, we have a team of 20 people. Out of those 20, I think 16 have Monmouth connections, which is really really huge. Without those 18 people joining us two to form this 20-person team, without those 18 people, none of what you're going to see on this website over the coming weeks, the coming months, and hopefully the coming years would have been possible. Not only did they take the time to say yes, they have all said, whatever you need help with, we'll do it. They have all been overly enthusiastic, extremely enthusiastic about this project from the very start when we first approached them. It's I can speak for Matt when I could say that we're very, very grateful to have made these types of not only connections, but these types of friendships while we were at Monmouth. We're very excited to work with them. And yeah, I think Matt did a good job describing what this brand will be. As I said, hopefully this can be something that continues to grow over the years into something really special. But going along with Best Available Player, we have 5 podcasts, and it will be 6 shortly. And this podcast is one of them, Best Available Podcast. So Matt, what is this podcast going to kind of entail?
Well, Ryan, it's hopefully us not getting sick of each other after all these years doing something like this. We did a morning show for a year and a half, and then did a regular afternoon drive time slot for our final semester of college. We're going to hopefully touch on a lot of sports, hopefully get some fun takes in there, tell some life stories, talk about some interesting life takes, life hacks, a little bit of mix of whatever, It's crazy, that we live so close to each other and we got to do this over, video conference, Zoom, all kinds of different avenues. But we're gonna bring our friendship and sports ties into the world of YouTube and Spotify and everywhere else that this is going to. So it'll be good. Hopefully I don't get too pissed off about the Red Sox right off the bat. So it'll be exciting.
As you can tell, Matt is a Boston fan. If you take a look at our vision statement on our website, which I encourage you to do, it's under the About page. Not only can you read that, you can actually see the faces of the other 18 people that will be creating content for us. There's bios for all of them, so you can learn a little more about them. But in our vision statement, Matt kind of mentioned that hopefully we don't get sick of each other as a joke, but our vision statement basically entails that we started out debating sports at lunch tables in elementary school. We brought that to high school, where we joined the high school's TV station, RVTV, under the watch of Jason Sapp and Nick Marmaru. And we learned this.
I love that you gave them a shout out too, right off the bat.
I had to give them a shout out because they were very instrumental.
They were.
Their tagline is "The pros get their start here," and I think that's very fair to say. They teach you so many very useful things that you really need to kind of get your start in this media industry. So without them, none of this would have been possible too.
Well, a lot of high schools don't even have what we had either.
No.
So we were really fortunate to not only have those two guys, and then also to have all the resources and ability that we had. I'm also, forever in debt to Nick Marmaru for telling me to get a haircut from my Justin Bieber haircut. So he'll if he's watching this, if he gets around to this part at like the 9-minute mark or whatever this is, he'd like that shout out. But we definitely really have spent a lot of time together talking about sports, and people have asked me before too, how do you guys still, just wake up every day and talk about like some random thing that happened? It's just, something that's been going on since we were like 7 or 8. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, absolutely. And then we graduated, we went our separate ways. Matt went on to Monmouth University. I went to the local community college where I met some really cool people, one of which is actually on the team as well. His name is Ross Anderson, so you'll see some stuff from him. But obviously community college is only 2 years, and I wanted to continue, get a 4-year degree. So I was looking at other options, and we were at Rancocas Valley basketball game, and Matt floated the kind of recruiting pitch. Well, why don't you come to Monmouth? There's a lot of stuff that we do here that I think you would like. And I kind of brushed it off. Initially, I was like, yeah, maybe, we'll see. But then I started looking more into it, seeing more of what he did specifically, and it really drew me in. So we reunited back in 2017 for 2 more years. And after we graduated, once again, we kind of went our separate ways. You can read more about that in our bios. But now we're back again doing something together with Best Available Players. So we really hope that you'll enjoy the content that we create. We really hope that you'll consider joining us on this journey together. We're very excited to be at the forefront. We're very excited, very optimistic, and I hope that every one of you is as well. With that said, let's get into some sports. Let's talk about some sports. As Matt said, this is going to be a podcast where we talk about sports and entertainment, and we interview people. No interviews today for episode 1, but be on the lookout. They are on the way. We have a list of people that we're really excited to reach out to bring on the podcast, and we think you guys will be really interested to hear what they have to say as well. We're going to talk about baseball first. I think that makes the most sense. They are, believe it or not, a third of the way through the season. Some teams have played 20 games. Some teams obviously have played a lot less than that, but most teams in the league are kind of around that 20-game mark. And in the 60-game season, that means we're a third of the way through the season. 3 weeks down, only 6 weeks left. It's gone very, very quickly. So you taking a look at the recap here. If you see me look over at my screen, and Matt, the same for him as well, we have information on the screen so we don't sound like a bunch of chooches when we talk about this stuff. So the first third of the season, I think there's some pretty clear contenders, Matt, that have established themselves as the teams to beat in the NL. Obviously, you have the Dodgers, who are head and shoulders above everybody else, but the Cubs, surprisingly, are giving them a run for their money. Meanwhile, in the American League, the Yankees have been very, very good. Oakland is off to a 16-6 start, the best winning percentage so far in the American League. And Minnesota is off to a 14-8 start there in the in the Central. So, Matt, just some brief thoughts. The first 20 games or so, first third of the season. What have you thought about the Major League Baseball so far?
Well, Ryan, I wonder why the Dodgers are off to such a great start. It's almost like they added a former MVP to their team in the offseason. But it's both great and strange to have baseball back with no fans, virtual fans, cardboard cutouts. You're actually in Citizens Bank Park, Ryan. I'm surprised you didn't give
Yes.
yourself a little shout out there. You're a season ticket holder this season.
Yeah, I
You're
technically am. Yeah, Matt, I got to tell you, I know there's bigger things going on right now, but I'm a little upset that it's been 3 weeks and I still have not found where my cutout is. They said they were going to take pictures. I'm still waiting on it. I would have a lot better peace of mind if I knew where I was in the stadium. So I'm always on the lookout. When they do like the little zoom in shots, there's a foul bar or something. I always like put like my binoculars to the screen and try to find myself, stop, pause it, and just try to like look through all the rows. But all the money went to charity, and I thought, okay, that's for a cardboard cutout at Citizens Bank Park. If I can't be there, that's a pretty good deal.
absolutely. It's great to have baseball back if you like a team that's not the Red Sox, but it's it's great to have our buddy Glenn DeNegris tweeting on the Yankees every day about some hit that I didn't watch or some pitcher that I barely heard of. It's I've kind of expected a lot of what happened so far. We had this debate with a couple of our friends uh, with whether or not Houston was going to be up at the top of the AL West. One of our friends who's part of the team mentioned the Angels. Hot take Zach Cosenza. So for me, at least, I knew Oakland was going to be up there. I've always been high on Oakland, even when they started Hendricks as the opener against the Yankees in that wild card game a couple of years ago. Um, but for me, I'm more, I guess, surprised at even like the quality of play that you're getting out there in terms of hitting. I've seen, at least in the games I've watched, especially if you look at teams like Oakland, they're scoring a lot of runs. And to have 3 to 4 months off and then come right back out, and this goes for any sport too, whether it be basketball, hockey, or soccer, we've all seen great quality of sports after just, sitting and working out at your house. I mean, for me, I can't sit on my couch for 4 months and then go out and shoot a basketball or like swing a bat. I would need practice. So you got to attribute that to what some of these teams are doing. It's just great to have baseball back. Again, not for me personally, but for everyone else who can enjoy it. Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. But again, Ryan, overall thoughts. I'm not too surprised that some of these division leaders, obviously, you have Miami currently at the top, but they've played a decent amount of less games. So obviously they're going to be the surprise. But Minnesota, I figured would pick up right where they left off. Same with the Yankees, the A's. But you mentioned the Cubs, Ryan. I mean, they kind of came not out of nowhere, but to see some of the production that they've put up this year, and especially the streak they've been on recently too, outside of the past 3 games, they've looked really solid. So there's a lot of teams that could kind of compete in this expanded format, but there's probably 5 or 6 that are really, really solid teams that you're going to look for in September.
I agree. Okay, maybe it was a little disrespectful to say the Cubs came out of nowhere because you look at their roster on paper, they're still very talented, right? I mean,
But no one really sat there at the beginning of the year and kind of pounded their fist with the Cubs. It was more, that this is the Dodgers league to lose. And they seem like a kind of a formidable foe to LA this year. Granted, LA added Mookie Betts, but you also got to kind of look at Chicago's division, though, too, and see some of the teams that are in there, especially with the adjusted schedule, too. I mean, I'm sure a lot of teams would love to play the Pirates as much as they get to play them. So, not a disrespect to them, but you're right. On paper, it's a really solid team.
yeah, I mean, Matt, you bring up their division. I think there's an argument to be made that it's probably the weakest division right now in baseball, just based off what's happened so far. Now that could change, but you look at Pittsburgh; they're the worst team right now in the major leagues. They're 4-14. Cincinnati, a team that came into the season with a lot of hype. They made some big additions. They have this really good pitching staff, which I'm personally a big fan of. They added to the offense, so they're supposed to score more runs. They're sitting at 9-11 right now. They're 4.5 games back of the Cubs, 2.5 back in the wild card. They're 4-6 in their last 10. So they've been a little bit of a disappointment so far. You have St. Louis. Everybody knows what happened to them. They've only played 8 games, so we don't really know what to make of them quite yet. And then Milwaukee is right there at 10-10, which I don't think is super surprising. So I do think the division has helped the Cubs a little bit. I really don't want to be disrespectful. I mean, they have a plus 17 run differential. Clearly, they're doing a lot of things right. The first year after Joe Madden too, that's a big thing. So maybe the new manager is helping. Maybe they just needed a new voice after Madden. But Matt, I don't know. I look at the NL. There's a couple teams I like more than Chicago. The Dodgers obviously won, but there's other teams too.
Well, and even you got to attribute too. I mean, I'm looking at 538 right now, and their preseason chances of the Cubs making the playoffs. They're considerably towards the middle of Major League Baseball teams as well. I agree with you that there's other teams that I like more than Chicago. But you also got to think too, they've been, and this is crazy to think because of how we grew up knowing the Cubs. But to all the new kids that are watching baseball, they've seen the Cubs in the playoffs almost every year. If you're talking about kids growing up watching baseball today, so it's a much different kind of way that people see this team today, and a lot of that can be attributed to Madden as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's kind of that question mark there. And kind of how they were toying with their lineup a lot last year. I know it's a big Joe Madden thing as well. But, I mean, I don't want to harp on the Dodgers, Ryan, but they have a plus 60 run differential. I don't know objectively how to put anyone in comparison to this team when they're just destroying every single opponent they have.
Yeah, I was going to say, Matt, I'm glad you kind of transitioned. We talked a lot about the NL Central, so and now we can go over to the NL West a little bit because that is where arguably the best team in the league resides in the Dodgers. They have an elite lineup, a very, very good starting rotation, a great bullpen. Everything about them screams title contender. So I'll ask you this. Colorado, they got off to a hot start, but they've kind of settled back down as of late. You have Arizona and San Diego kind of kicking around there. There's no one that's going to take this division title away from the Dodgers, but can anyone at least give them a fight in this division?
You know, if you would have asked me this question a week ago, I would have said maybe the Padres, but the Dodgers quickly squashed that theory for me. A week ago, I would have said the Rockies, but Colorado has shown even when they get towards September and October, I mean, granted, that's a 162-game season compared to what we have this season. Colorado has shown that they kind of fall off after a hot start. And they do this almost every year, too. I mean, granted, they have Charlie Blackmon, who's legit hitting almost 500, even after having the coronavirus, too. So they have some individual threats. There's obviously individual threats on the Padres as well. But I just, it must be nice, Ryan, to have Mookie Betts on your team. Must be really nice. And I'm not even one of the more aggravated Red Sox fans over that trade, but it's when you add a guy of his caliber to a team that has been in the World Series as much as the Dodgers have over the past 5 years, it's only going to be good things. And I really, and Glenn's going to get mad at me too, I don't really see too many teams out of the American League really putting up much of a fight. I mean, I hate to really throw the parade for the Dodgers now, but I mean, obviously, is this still a third of the way through the season? So that's a good chunk of games, and they have a plus 60 run differential, Ryan. There's really not too many teams that even remotely come close. The next highest number is 35, and 2 teams have that. So I really don't see a challenger. And if you go off the schedule, though, too, having it's West and West playing each other. So if you look at the Dodgers schedule and how it's structured up, I don't see too many challengers out of the AL West either in terms of regular season opponents. You have Oakland that we talked about. I'm very high on Oakland. But outside of that, you have a Houston team that is still struggling to figure out how to hit a baseball without the banging of a trash can. And a Texas team and an Angels team that are kind of underperforming, and then the Mariners. So the regular season is going to be another kind of banner year for the Dodgers, like they do almost every year, winning close to 100 games.
Yeah, I mean, they've played 23 games at this point, and a season like this is kind of where, you can say small sample size for a little bit, but now some of these statistics are going to kind of start to stabilize a little bit to where you can kind of start to make some predictive analysis of them. And I don't know, it's just very hard. You look at who the Dodgers have. They not only do they have a star-studded, 26-man roster, they have a bunch of guys down at their satellite site that they can just call up whenever they want, and they'll be good. I mean,
they just called
up. They just called up. I think Kybert Ruiz is his name, and he hit a home run in his first game. No other team has the depth that this team does. And there was a tweet back in March where the Dodgers played a split squad game, and both of the lineups were very good. The pitching staffs were very good, and some guy said, even in spring, it was something along the lines of, even in spring training, nobody can beat this team. No one has as much depth, this and that. And I said it at the time, like, if only spring training results carried over into the regular season. But the premise of the tweet was true. The premise of the tweet was true. There we go. Learned how to talk. This team, the depth is very enviable. I mean, you as a Red Sox fan, me as a Phillies fan, our teams have been very up and down so far this year. For your team, maybe a little more down.
I don't know what up you're talking about. If it was opening night, then sure.
Well, that was a big up, and now you've come down.
Must be nice. Yeah.
The Phillies, they just got a sweep. We'll talk about them in a second, but you look at the lineup, it's very good. You look at the rotation. Dustin May has really starting to grow into his own. He was a former top prospect. Now you can see why he's been very good so far this year, and I think there's still room to grow. I mean, you have Kershaw, Buehler, May at the top of your rotation. You're going to be competitive, not even to mention the fact that they have Ross Stripling, they have Tony Gonsolin, they have Julio Urias, who's finally starting to, kind of be that guy that we've thought he would be for the past few years. His team is very good, and I don't see anybody beating them. Now, to wrap up the NL quickly, I said that the Central might be the weakest division in baseball. The NL East is going to give them a run for their money right now. There's been some bad baseball so far. You said Miami's in first, and they are 9-6. Atlanta's a very, very, I'd say, a kind of a weak 13-10. I have really not been impressed with that team, and they've suffered a couple substantial injuries, which is not good. Their best pitcher, arguably, and now they're without Acuna for a little bit here. He was just put on the IL. So you have Philadelphia at 8-9. They just swept the Mets, who are 9-14. You have Washington in the middle of them at 8-11. I'll let you go first because I'm a Phillies fan, so obviously I'll be a little biased. What do you make of this division?
Well, you bring up Atlanta too, and especially what happened to Fultonevich over the past couple of years. Also, it's a team that has, going in even the past year to 2 years, and this year also, they had a lot of the talent there. They were not the shoe-in, but they were what most people were picking in this division. And Washington got their title, obviously. Rendon goes out to LA. They still retain pretty much most of that pitching staff. So the Nationals are kind of, there's a lot of teams, Ryan. This is going to be the NFC East of baseball. There's going to be a lot of teams that are kind of average and just hanging around. You look at the Mets, they're only 5 games under right now. So it's kind of just going to be this big one leveled mess, and whoever's on top at the end of September, there you go. That's your winner. I don't know if you would agree with that comparison, being an Eagles fan in the NFC East every year. This, through the first month or so, or however many weeks we've been playing baseball right now, it appears to me that this is the NFC East of baseball. I couldn't tell you a winner today. I couldn't tell you a winner in a month. It's going to be whoever's in first on the last day. There's a lot of people were saying the Mets were going to be this team. Oh, the Mets with all this talent in the pitching, and look at what's happened. Stroman opted out. Cespedes opted out. You have a team that just has underperformed. Every year they have high expectations over the past couple of years. And of course, Miami, I'm not going to, they're in first. That's great. They're not going to be there in a month. So between Atlanta, Philly, Washington, that's going to be the jumbled mess that you got to watch out for. And Ryan, I feel bad for you too, because your bullpen doesn't understand the objective of baseball is to hold the lead, not blow it, or else you would be in first place. But yeah, it's a jumbled mess, this division.
Yeah, as a Phillies fan, I'd really like to think, because you see Harper second in the league in OPS, Realmuto seventh. The offense, for the most part, has been pretty good. I think Hoskins is starting to get back into his kind of groove a little bit. I see him. It seems like he's vibing a little better. It seems like he kind of has that swagger that he had back in his rookie year, and kind of a little bit the next season as well. The division's it's a mess. I mean, there's not one team that stands above the rest. I've said before in our group chat, I like Miami. I think that they have a very, very good pitching staff. Listen, I really think I like their pitching staff a lot.
I couldn't name you 5 players on the Marlins. I couldn't have done it in spring training, and I probably still can't do it now. I mean, it's great they won some games, but you can't sit here and tell me, Ryan, that in a 60-game season they're going to sustain this.
That's the thing, though. You don't know. You really don't know in a 60-game season. Like, anything can happen. I mean, we've seen it before. Some team just randomly gets hot. They win 5-10 games in a row. And in a season like this, that's helpful, especially in an expanded playoff format where 16 teams are going to make it. Miami's put themselves off to a very good start at 9-6. They're leading the division. Now, I get it. They haven't played as many games as Atlanta. They still have a lot of ways to go, and because of what happened to them, they're going to be playing a lot of doubleheaders. Maybe they get fatigued, but they're a very intriguing team to me. So I'd keep your eye on the Marlins. Just everybody out there. So I want to move to the American League. We're going to start in the West because that's where the best team right now in the American League resides by winning percentage in the Oakland Athletics. Oakland's 16-6. They kind of have a stranglehold on the division right now. They're 4.5 games up. That's actually the biggest division lead anywhere in the major leagues. They are 4.5 games up over Houston. Texas is there at 10-10. They're 5 games out, and then it's the Angels and Seattle bringing up the rear of the field. Can Oakland really do this, Matt? Can they really be the best team in the American League? I've been a long time proponent of the Athletics. I've said a couple of years ago, watch out for their lineup. It's going to be very good not only this year but in the future, and it's really come around. They have one of the best offenses in baseball. They have a pitching staff that's full of young, exciting arms. They might be, if they're not the most fun team to watch in baseball, they're in the top 5. I find myself watching a lot of Oakland games recently. So can they really do this and continue to be the best team in the American League for the next 2/3 of the season?
Of course. This is the team that I said in our group chat however many months ago when Zach was saying that the Angels were going to be the best team. I said Oakland. No one, when we were talking about this division, no one in our group chat mentioned Oakland. And this is a team, Ryan. I know I kind of pounded my fist when they first kind of came on the scene, but I've really come around to them. And I've never seen a baseball team hit so many crucial grand slams in such a short period of time, whether it be a walk-off grand slam or a late game grand slam. They've done it 3 or 4 times. I'm sure if you know the number. Definitely the most exciting team to watch. They score a lot of runs, and you got to give their front office credit. They get a lot of guys that aren't necessarily going to jump off the page name-wise and of the whole Moneyball thing that you're going to go back on, but the formula still kind of bodes true. Like the guy who's leading them in batting average is Robbie Grossman. The average MLB fan is not going to know who Robbie Grossman is, and he's bounced around to a couple different teams over the past few years, and I'm a huge Matt Chapman fan. I love what they're doing out there. They play in one of the worst stadiums for baseball, at least in the league. So I'm a huge fan of Oakland. I really, and I don't mean to harp on the Astros, Ryan, but they don't really scare me anymore. They're still trying to figure things out. I mean, once you get them in the postseason, I think they're going to make probably more of a threat to Oakland than in the regular season. But, of course, that Rob's letting everyone in this year. Houston's probably going to get in. But Oakland is another beneficiary of this schedule to where you're going to get a lot of Seattle, a lot of the Angels, and then you're going to get, like the Diamondbacks and Giants, teams that you could realistically beat. So I think in terms of their division, they should be fine. And the American League, I think Minnesota is pretty good. I think the Yankees, as much as it kills me to say it, they're pretty solid as well. So there's teams that could challenge them. But in terms of regular season play, I think Oakland is going to really kind of hold true.
I want to bring up the Astros just for a second because everyone knows what happened. There's a couple players on the team so far that are struggling. Is it because they don't have the advantage? I don't know. It could be.
Which ones, Ryan? Which ones are struggling? And I'm not even one of those people who's really. If we had a Yankee fan on, they would be much more into this conversation. But I want you to name some of those names. It's kind of funny.
Jose Altuve does not look like himself. So is that because he's not here in the trash cans anymore? Listen, I don't know. It could be. Maybe that was it. Maybe he's just off to a very slow start and it's just a coincidence. I don't know. But you look at this team, at least on paper, they have a lot of talent. And I'm not writing off the cheating, but as far as I know, Altuve was still putting up good numbers before any of this cheating happened. So I'm not willing to write him off just yet. They just got Yordan Alvarez back, although now he's kind of got like a knee thing going on that he had going on months ago, and it's apparently still not fully healed. But as long as he's able to DH in the middle of that lineup, that's I mean, he hit a home run in his first game back. So that's a big help to the heart of their order. You still have Springer, you still have Bregman, you still have Correa. Kyle Tucker, I think, is a guy that's going to develop very nicely into a nice big league bat. They're missing Verlander, but I still like their pitching staff. I think it has some intriguing arms, and of course, it's still led by Greinke, who's 36 years old. Wow, that is crazy.
I'm not saying they suck.
No, not you, but I'm just saying the perception of them around the league right now, I think people are kind of overlooking them, and I can understand why. But I think this is a team that people should still be concerned about, especially in the playoffs.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I was mentioning earlier. I don't really care what they do in the regular season. 16-team playoff, you're gonna get in, especially with the way some of these other American League teams were playing this year. So like they don't really faze me right now if I'm an Oakland fan. But once you get into the playoffs, this is a team that, cheating or not, has played almost into November in the past however many years. So this is still experienced, and I'm going to put an asterisk next to experienced. It's just ridiculous, man. And it's funny too. I'm very thankful that the Astros cheated to this caliber because it takes the heat off of the Red Sox that did almost the exact same thing. It takes the heat off of them considerably. But I agree. Get them in the playoffs, and it's the same thing. And I know you'll laugh at this. It's the same thing with the Patriots, Ryan, right? So they get accused of cheating, and you get them into the playoffs, whether there be a little drop-off because of whatever penalty came down on them, whatever time they got caught cheating. They're still always a threat year to year in the playoffs, and I think Houston's still going to be the same way, especially this year in a shortened season. I agree. And they're pretty hot right now, too. They've won 4 straight games, so it's maybe they've kind of figured it out after a slow start. Maybe that was it. So I think maybe they got a little too much heat early. So good for them, I guess, that they're a game over 500. Sure.
Now, I want to skip over the AL Central for 1 second. There's a reason for that. So we're going to jump to the East. The Yankees 15-6. They have the Rays at 14-9. The Orioles a very surprising 12-9. They're 7-3 in their last 10. So they're still holding on. They still might be legit. They have a +7 run differential so far. They're the first 21 games. Yep, I could do math. Toronto 7-11. They just suffered big injury with Bichette. He's going to be out for a while. And then your Sox there 6-16, the second worst record.
Piece of garbage team
in the major leagues. I'm going to let you talk about the Red Sox in a second. The Yankees 15-6. They look exactly like people thought they would. The offense has been very, very good. The pitching staff has been good enough. And I think that was a big question. Would the pitching staff be good enough to get them to the bullpen? It has. They have some good arms there. I really like Jordan Montgomery. I'm a big fan of his. I'm waiting for them to call up Clark Schmidt. I think that'll be a good boost in the arm for them. But Tampa Bay's still right there, and I've been a long time Tampa Bay Rays fan. Brandon Lowe, I think, is fourth in OPS. I'm going to check that. Yeah, he's fourth in OPS right now in the entire league. Austin Meadows, after being on the COVID list, he's come back. He looks like himself now. I love their pitching staff led by Snell and Glasnow. I don't know, Matt. I think that the Rays can stay with the Yankees here throughout the rest of the regular season. What do you think?
No, I agree. They've kind of been there, especially last year too. They were kind of hanging around for a long time. Um, with Tampa Bay, they're another team like Oakland. The average fan's not going to know a lot of the guys that play. Like G-Man Choi or Hunter Renfroe, who is a name people should remember from a few years ago. But I like Tampa. These are the two teams outside of probably Oakland that I think could make a pretty decent run in this format, at least in this postseason. I think Minnesota has to kind of prove it to me a little more, but Tampa Bay is going to play some pretty decent competition, especially with all the times you're going to play the Yankees and also Toronto. I still think Toronto's a formidable team. Will they make the playoffs? Maybe, maybe not. But I like Tampa Bay. I know you've been huge on Tampa Bay and the whole Heim Bloom experiment that went on there for a long time. I'll give all of our Yankee fan friends credit. The Yankees are the best team in the division. There you go. You got it out of a Red Sox fan. There's big questions around the consistency with health in regards to Stanton and Judge. I still think those guys are critical to the team. I don't know why some Yankee fans are starting to kind of question it. I get the Stanton criticism more so than the Judge stuff, but with Quinn Frazier hitting the way he is too, and everything else, I think the biggest question is Yankee pitching though, and it's been that. And I feel like we were saying this on the radio 3 years ago, Ryan. The pitching staff for the Yankees, whether it be CC Sabathia out there or some of the guys that are thrown out there now, like James Paxton. It's kind of hit or miss, no pun intended, with pitching. But these are two solid teams. I think the Yankees will probably hang on. Tampa Bay, I don't know if they have enough to last a full 60 games to win a division, because we haven't really seen that out of them. I guess you got to go back to 2000. I think they won the division prior to since 2008. You probably have the fact check here because my keyboard is currently behind my laptop, so that's the quarantine setup we're working with here. But they have a lot of solid guys. Former Red Sox Manuel Margot kicking around on Tampa Bay. I like them both. I have enjoyed watching the Yankees more than I've enjoyed watching the Red Sox this year. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, I just probably committed a huge sin to Boston fans everywhere, but it's true. They're a solid team. They're a fun team to watch. They hit home runs and they win. That's what the Red Sox did 2 years ago. So there you go, Ryan. I think Tampa Bay can catch them, but I don't know if they'll catch them at the end of the season. They might catch them, but the Yankees will catch fire again. I don't know if they'll be the end-all division winner.
So, Matt, you might be surprised to hear this. I was a little surprised, too. The Rays haven't won the division since 2010, if you can believe that. So it's been a decade.
That was a fun. I think that was. I'm trying to think. Was that no? The Yankees won it the year that Longoria hit that.
That was 2011. Yeah,
that cheap little home run.
That got them a wild card berth.
Yeah. So 2010. Yeah. And that was kind of when they had their first wave of people no one really heard of. With that World Series run, this is the second wave of people no one's ever heard of in their winning games. So you got to give them credit. The formula works. Just takes a little time to rebuild in between.
Now, I know you have a bone to pick with your new GM in Bloom. We're going to get to that in another episode because I don't want to spend too long on this. We're almost through the baseball segment. We're going to talk about hockey here in a minute. So we're going to move to the AL Central, and I wanted to save this for last because of something that happened. I'm sure most people know by now. The Twins are 14-8. And Cleveland 13-9, and then you have basically the rest. The White Sox are 11-11 right now. I think if I'm looking at the standings correctly, they're in that final spot to make it into the expanded playoffs in the American League at 11-11 because Texas is 10-10. I would have to fact check that, but they could maybe sneak their way into that final spot. They're not going to do anything. They have a really young, good group of players. This isn't their year. That's coming, White Sox fans, but this isn't it. So I want to talk about Cleveland because something pretty notable happened. Everybody, of course, knows by this point that Zach Plesac and Mike Clevenger broke the rules that were stated. They went out to, what was it, Matt? What did they go out to get a couple beers and eat something at a restaurant?
Yeah, I think it was a dinner excursion, I believe.
Yeah,
Some form
and
of
so
dinner.
so Plesac got
So
caught
stupid.
first, and then Clevenger was soon found out to have also been with him, and basically the the decision came down to option them both to the satellite site, which I was a little surprised that it actually did get to that point. I agree with it. I was surprised that it actually did get to that point. So, Matt, in this day and age, I don't know if you saw Plesac's video rant where he was just sitting in his car without the I think he wasn't wearing a seatbelt if I remember correctly. So that's strike
Yeah,
one already. uh, it's
click
just
it or ticket, man. Come on.
I don't know, with everything going on and with the fact that you've had coronavirus outbreaks already in the major leagues, I don't know how you
Well,
can be so stupid to do what they did and think that they wouldn't get caught and there wouldn't be repercussions.
well, some of the reasoning that we found for these people leaving hotels is great too. I think it was the Miami one when they needed milk, so they left the hotel for that. The whether or not the Cardinals left for a casino, that's been debated whether or not they did that. We heard casinos, but like this is one along with the milk one too. This is probably one that can easily be solved within your own hotel, whether it be just ordering the food. You also make millions of dollars. You can easily pay to have it delivered and tip the delivery person uh, to come to you. And it's the funny part is too is it shows how Cleveland views these two pitchers that they optioned them both, and they both are really solid players. But they already have a Cy Young candidate on their team, and it's neither of those two players. And I know you're a big Clevenger guy, Ryan. I was surprised that he would make a decision like this, especially being so close to a guy in Trevor Bauer who used to be on the team, who has been very woke on this whole process and really woke on a lot of things. But it's so stupid. And I'm not attacking anyone in general here, but I don't really see the point in going to a restaurant to eat when you see what the server has to wear just to be near you. Number one. Number two, you don't know how well the silverware and plates have been cleaned. So it's kind of a big risk. And the fact that the players on Cleveland didn't really find out in the best way either. It didn't really sit well with me, and let alone them, to see such an irresponsible decision made. The rules, the protocols have been there. All you got to do is follow them. There's been you remember that campaign, we want to play, or tell us when and where and we'll come show up. And I'm sure a lot of these players that are contemplating making these decisions are the same ones who are doing that. So it's disappointing. I also think it's kind of funny they optioned them both to the alternate site, but shows they don't need them. I mean, at the end of the day, they're not going to tolerate a decision like that. In general, I don't see the need to go to a restaurant and eat a full 3-course meal when it's 95 degrees out. So I don't really know why they wanted to do that either. But good for Cleveland for standing up for their overall roster. So I was very happy to see them do something like that, because it kind of sets that statement. And I think you would agree that, this kind of stuff isn't gonna fly.
Matt, I think he said it perfectly. I'm not going to add too much to what you said. I think that was very well put, and you are right. I am a big Clevenger fan. I'd say that he's probably in my top 5 for my favorite players in the league. So to hear that he was involved in something like this, it was definitely very disappointing. It's I know he's kind of like a free spirited guy. You know, he's really laid back. He's kind of out there. I don't know. I would have really liked to believe that he wouldn't have done something like this, but I guess I was wrong. And I'm definitely very disappointed with his decision. I hope that these guys kind of learn that what they did is not okay and they don't just brush it off as, whatever. And they,
Well,
I
didn't
don't
they
know.
keep it a secret too from the team, or at
They
least?
tried to, yeah.
And like at
Which
that point,
again, yeah.
don't bring
Like
him back. Don't bring him back at that point. Like I wouldn't trust a coworker who would do something like that because that's what they are. They're coworkers, a baseball team, right? So imagine if you're at a job and someone does that and then doesn't tell you. You would be pissed off. And I I think it has to come down to like some sort of a team meeting to be like, hey, do you want to bring these guys back? Like that's the only solution I think that'll come out of this. Because it sets an example for the rest of the league too that teams or at least organizations that should take this seriously won't tolerate a decision like that. It was just unnecessary. Just go to the restaurant in your hotel. Most hotels have a restaurant within the building. I don't know if you're allowed to go down there. I don't know if that's part of the protocols or not, but just you don't even have to leave your bed. You can have it delivered to your hotel room. I don't know.
so. I was reading something interesting too. So first of all, for people that don't know, they were sent down. So unless there's an injury or someone gets put on the bereavement list or something like that, these guys can't come up for another 10 days from the time that they were sent down. So that's big in and of itself. Now Clevenger is an interesting case in this because theoretically, if Cleveland really wanted to prove a point, they could keep him down and mess up with his service time. They could mess it up and get an extra year of team control. So if you think about it, that those are millions of dollars that Clevenger could potentially have left on the table just because he wanted to go and get a meal at a restaurant, which is mind blowing that you wouldn't think that through. Right now, he's supposed to be a free agent in 3 years. His service time right now is 3 years, 41 days. So he could have screwed that all up for himself. I'm really interested to see because his name's been brought up in trade rumors a lot over the past couple of years. I'm interested to see if this might be the thing that kind of gets Cleveland's front office to be like, okay, do we really want to deal with this or should we just try to trade him? Because I think the one thing for Cleveland as a team, their pitching has been very good. They need offense and they need it badly. So I kind of wonder if they might explore something where they trade one of these guys. I think Clev would bring back more in return for a big bat. Because I think if you add a bat to this team, I think they could be very competitive.
Wasn't their team batting average like under 200 for a decent stretch of the first couple weeks? They were really struggling to score runs for a long time.
Yeah.
And I agree. The one thing that Cleveland has never had an issue with, and you could go back to when they first kind of came on the scene with, I guess this, it's not really this core group anymore because a lot of guys have came in and out. But since 2015, right, or 2016, one of those 2 years when they played the Red Sox in the first, in a divisional round of the playoffs, that's kind of when they first came on. They always had pitching, whether it be Corey Kluber or Clevenger now and Shane Bieber, who, again, you don't necessarily need these two guys or at least one of them when you have a guy in Shane Bieber who's putting up ridiculous numbers. So I agree, Ryan. You might as well trade one of them, try and get some hitting back. Maybe not this year. I think a lot of teams are going to be wary of trades, and I don't think it's really necessary this season either, especially with the logistics of just getting a guy from Chicago to come to Miami or the other way around. It's just going to be logistically too hard. So you might as well wait and kind of do it in the offseason. But I kind of agree. It is kind of I saw what you said about the service time and everything, but they're definitely making a statement here, and I think it's the right statement to make that stuff like this don't mess it up for the rest of the league. You look at the Cardinals; they're just starting to play games again. They had 16 some days off in between games, so they don't want to turn into another St. Louis. So I give credit to the Cleveland front office. They had to do something like this to set a statement. And I hope more teams do it if players are irresponsible.
Now, before we move on to the next sport we're going to talk about, which is hockey, and then we have a couple fun segments planned, I want to get some bold predictions from both of us. That way we can come back to this podcast, episode 1, in 6 weeks and see either how smart we were or how stupid we were. So, Matt, you can give me one, you can give me more than one, but what is a bold prediction that you have regarding Major League Baseball for the final 6 weeks?
I'll give you two. Oakland Athletics will be the American League champions this year.
Okay.
Shout out Glenn Denegris. Other bold prediction is this Red Sox team will be the worst Red Sox team in team history. And this team, mind you, has been around for over 100 years. So there you go. Those are my two bold predictions.
Wow. I'm going to go with Miami and Baltimore. Both make the playoffs. That's number one. Number two, Bryce Harper finishes the season with the top OPS in the entire league. Right now, he's second. He's going to prove that this isn't a hot streak. He's going to put together the best stretch of his life, and he's going to solidify himself as the top MVP candidate in the National League. And I'm going to say number three, Trevor Bauer continues his incredible ways, and he's going to put himself up front to win a Cy Young.
I don't understand how there's still some people in your fan base, Ryan, that think Bryce Harper isn't worth the money that you paid him for.
I don't get it either. I would love to talk to one of those people, man. Some of those people someday.
We could find those people and get them on the show to talk about it. But it's amazing to me. Philadelphia fans are going to find something to complain about having like the best player in baseball on their team. I would love to have Bryce Harper on my team. And I would pay him more than what you're paying him. So it's a miracle that there's still people out there that think he's not a good contributor to the Phillies. But their job's not done yet. They got to sign your other friend, Ryan, JT. You got to sign him too.
Hashtag sign JT. This is a sign JT podcast where I'm going to come out right now and say it. Or I know we're very brave for putting that out there on the web, but we are a sign JT positive podcast. So that was talking baseball. Of course, I'm sure we're going to talk about baseball a lot more as the stretch run kind of heats up here. And
I think we should add a segment to talking baseball about our Sacred Heart CYO days. I think we need to tell a story every single time about how you were very good and I was atrocious on the baseball field.
You're too kind. We can add that.
I had two hits, man, in my whole career.
That's fine. Some people don't get any. So I mean, you're good. They got to put the banner up for you.
I would love to get the StatCast broadcast on how I performed in the Mount Holly fields in 2:00 on a Saturday.
The exit velo of your two hits was 30 miles an hour.
I don't think I got either in the air. I think they were like hard ground balls. I don't even think I got like a line drive hit. So
you hustled though. That was the big thing. You always hustled.
Did I?
You always tried your best.
Dude,
you always had a good time.
I wanted to go home and build Legos. I didn't enjoy sports at the time. I kind of fell in love with sports after I stopped playing sports, which is kind of strange to think. But there you go. We'll add that to talking baseball.
Yeah, you get that post-game slice of pizza or that post-game
the great thing about Sacred Heart is that you can add or you can choose your order. So you'd have one of the parents go around and take your order. So it was pizza. There was a burger, I think, or a hot dog. There was the popular slushie, but you could only get the slushie. You couldn't get the pizza and the slushie, so you really had to choose. I know you probably stuck with the pizza most times because you avoid the hot dogs of the world. Yeah,
I went with that. Sometimes I went with the pretzel. Let me tell you, I liked playing those 8:45 in the morning baseball games on Saturdays. The problem was that your options for what to get at the snack bar were limited because it was still really early in the morning. So like you couldn't get pizza. I think there were a couple other things you couldn't get. So you really wanted to play like that 10:30 game because then you had all the options.
Well, I mean, I don't. I'm trying to think of what other things they had there, but we have some interesting tidbit.
But you don't really, I don't know, you don't really want like a Snickers bar after a baseball game. At least I didn't.
Well, I mean, you could get those anywhere, but it's if you look at some of the people that came out of that league, Ryan, we got one of them that's in professional baseball right now. So yeah, we got to educate the people on Mount Holly baseball and Sacred Heart CYO and all of that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of starting to become more known as a fact, but New Jersey produces a lot of very talented baseball players. And I'd say South Jersey, really is starting to get that ascent going up. I think people are finally starting to realize that it's not just North Jersey anymore. South Jersey produces a lot of great players, but we have a lot of time to talk about that in the coming weeks, coming months. So let's pivot over to hockey. It's a little slap shot. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs, Matt. So now every team almost has played at least 3 games in the
I,
series. There's one going on right now
I'll
where
tell you what, Ryan. The what has brought my happiness back after wasting away in my house for 4 months is hearing two songs: the NBA on
Mhm.
TNT song and the Stanley Cup playoffs theme song. Those two things have brought my happiness back. And having hockey on at like 2 a.m. And seeing like the Coyotes playing hockey. I never thought watching an Arizona Coyotes hockey game would make me so happy, but playoff hockey still a really good product, and I was kind of interested with no fans how that would be, because basketball and soccer are very different uh, than well, I would say basketball is different than soccer and hockey in terms of not having fans there. But I'm impressed with the product they put on. I don't know how you feel about it, but I really like the atmosphere. I like the setup they have. I think the quality of play has been pretty solid. I've heard the ice isn't so great in Toronto as compared to Edmonton. I didn't know Edmonton was a big city until like a week ago. A lot of things we're learning this week.
Matt, I'm going to add something to your list from earlier. When I heard the music on CBS last Sunday during the PGA Championship, that got me on. I felt something that I haven't felt in a very long time. So I'm going to add that to your list too. But yeah,
We were lucky. I couldn't watch it on. I couldn't hear Jim Nance's voice. I had work. They had it on mute, so I'm
ugh,
jealous of that. But it's people got to understand. It's little things like that that get us going and getting the sports juices back, for sure.
so there's a couple series that have played 4 games already. Vegas and Chicago. Vegas leads 3-1. Dallas and Calgary are tied 2-2. Most other series have played and finished 3 games, and there's only one team that's up 3-0, and that's Glendon Eagles' favorite hockey team, the Islanders. The
Day
other,
one.
he could never stop talking about the Islanders. That was one thing that I learned about him very quickly. He never missed an opportunity to bring up the New York Islanders.
And he was so sad too. He was so livid when they switched from Nassau to the Barclays
He
Center.
was, yeah.
He was the first one to come into the office and say, "Matt, I am so upset. I used to love going to Long Island and on the Long Island Expressway and not experiencing any traffic and then
hmm
watching my Islanders play." So he said those
He
exact
should.
words to us.
He showed us a lot of his Islanders memorabilia that he's collected over the years. Just a really big fan, so I'm glad that he finally gets to experience this. The other series are 2-1. There's one going on right now that'll be the third game for both teams, Vancouver and St. Louis, and I'm going to give you a live score. So this is
Ooh,
pretty cool. Live breaking
breaking
score
news.
here. 1-1 is the score with 3 minutes and 47 seconds left in the second period. So I'm gonna try to click on the game center here to see who scored. But Matt, it's been pretty good. You said that the quality of play has been good so far in the bubbles, and I agree with you. I agree. I didn't really know what to expect, but these teams are really fighting. They are putting on a good quality for the people watching at home, and I'm excited. I really wasn't sure if this was going to be able to be done for the NHL, but more power to them. They found a way to do it. They found a way to be safe, and this is the result. So,
Well,
JT
that's the. Oh
JT
God.
Miller, not to cut you off, scored for the Canucks, and Justin Falk scored for the Blues. So those are your scores.
It's also after midnight. If the people watching haven't picked up on or listening, I forgot we're doing both.
Yes.
Past midnight for all those people out there. So we're really hammering home the content train right now. Uh, and the one biggest marketable thing of the Stanley Cup playoffs, Ryan, is the fans. I
hmm
think, and the atmosphere. So that's why I wasn't skeptical. I was more skeptical of this format that they brought out, and I still have my doubts about it, for some biased reasons and some unbiased reasons. But even without the fans, I got to give a lot of credit to the broadcast teams and how they kind of package this. It's still exciting.
Yeah.
You still kind of feel like when the hockey broadcaster gets really excited and talks really fast, and the inflection changes when there's a shot. I think there's something about that especially for people like us who were in the or are in the broadcasting field and have done it for so many years. It's one thing I'm envious of. I've always wanted to try hockey, so I got to give credit where credit's due to NBC. They've really kind of met my expectations and filling a huge hole where the fans were. And I think I'm mostly happy they're not doing that virtual fan crap. But the format, Ryan, I don't know how you feel about it. You and I've had, you probably love it. This
I do.
round robin stupid stuff that has vaulted your fourth best team to the top.
I was going to
And
ask you, Matt, so you're leading Carolina 2-1 right now. I say you're a Bruins fan. So
got the
clearly
banner back there.
the
Yeah.
the round, that's right, there is the banner. So the round robin, it would have been nice to be the 1 seed, sure, but clearly it hasn't affected your team as much. Now, something big did happen to your Bruins, who, as I said, lead the Carolina Hurricanes, the spooky Carolina Hurricanes, 2-1.
There's nothing spooky about that team, Ryan.
Yes,
I don't know
there is.
why you keep
Yes,
saying
there
that.
is.
It's
They are a very
they
talented team.
they would be down 3-0 right now if Tuukka Rask knew how to handle the puck. So there you go.
Well, I'm glad you brought him up because that's what I want to talk about with the Bruins. Tuukka Rask, in the middle of the playoff series, decided to opt out. So he didn't do it before the round robin. He didn't do it before he went to the bubble. He didn't do it before the playoff series against the Hurricanes started. He did it in the middle of the series, decided to opt out. Now the Bruins are in a good spot because unlike, I'd say, most teams around the league, they have a very, very good backup goaltender that could probably start on most teams in Yaroslav Halak. So in that aspect, I think you're fine. But what was your reaction when you got the alert that Rask opts out?
Uh, the first reaction had a lot of expletives in it. So I'm going to save, in case there's children watching, I'm going to save the bad language. But you make a great point about Halak. I'll talk about him in a second. I'm never going to criticize someone's decision to not or to opt out, right? And I've said this since day one. If Tom Brady was still on the Patriots and he decided to opt out of the season, I'd say, okay, he's got kids, he's got stuff going on, good for him for just doing what's best. But I'm going to tell you what the fan base thinks about Tuukka Rask. Not me. Again, I have to separate this. I think Tuukka, if he wants to go home and with his newborn and whatever, that's fine. That's probably the safe thing to do. There was the article that probably the quote that didn't help his cause, I guess, in terms of the fan base. He's had a very rocky relationship with the fan base for years. Bruins fans do blame him for the lack of titles that they have. Boston hasn't won a title since 2011. And to put that in perspective, Ryan, we were in high school when that happened. That was like our actually, no.
We
That
just
was before high
graduated
school.
8th grade.
That was 8th grade because
Yeah.
I had a nice friendly wager with Phil Patrigoni over whether or not the Bruins were going to win. So it's been I don't understand why Bruins fans blame him for the lack of cups. I see the frustration. He does make mistakes that make me kind of scratch my head from time to time. But I'm not going to go out there and say, like, oh, Tuukka, he's bailing on a team. He has no heart. To quote that, the press conference didn't help his cause was after they lost game 2. And he said the fun's not there. The atmosphere is not the same. The body language was kind of off. You could kind of feel that he was, and there's a lot of things that was kept internally too, rightfully that it should, that a lot of the public doesn't know. So was he feeling this prior to? A lot of people were saying he was. So why would you want to continue in a situation that you're not happy in? I give credit to him. The Bruins fan base hates it. I think this, in terms of the average Boston fan, this is going to be probably the last straw with Tuukka Rask, which is crazy to me because he's a finalist for the Vezina, not only this year, but also almost every year. He's been one of the most consistent players in terms of production, obviously. Again, we would be up 3-0 if it wasn't for a mistake he made and a mistake Jake DeBrusk made in game two. But I'm not going to shoulder the whole blame on him. We're lucky to have Halak. That's if we didn't have Yara Halak, Ryan, I would be in a much more somber mood tonight. But I'm perfectly okay with Halak because he has playoff experience. He was arguably not just as good as Tuca during the regular season, but he was pretty close in terms of the way he played and the way he was respected amongst the team. So I'm happy for Tuca that he made the decision that best suits him, and I'm happy we also have a goalie that can produce. So, but it's going to be the last straw with the fans, though, Ryan. I will tell you that.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. He has 1 year left on that contract that he signed prior to 2013, that 8-year, $56 million contract. Next year is his last year. And then after that, he's a free agent. He'll be 34 years old in his free agent years. So you say that
he will not be back.
You don't think so?
Back. No. After I would be surprised. I don't know if Don Sweeney's going to cater to the fans or not. I think they would have to kind of look with what's available. I wouldn't take someone who's 34 often, but with Tuca, I would, depending on what else is available. But I question whether or not he's going to be re-signed after that 1 year.
So the Bruins have looked good. They will play the winner if they do make it, which I really think that the Hurricanes are going to put up a fight. I don't think the Hurricanes are going to win because they don't have a goalie.
But I thought they were spooky, Ryan. I thought there was this team that's going to win in 6 games. What happened to that?
They have some very good players. I really like their offense. You have a guy in Sebastian Aho who's leading the NHL in points right now. He has 10 points so far. I really like Teravainen. I've liked him for a very long time, going back to when he was on the Blackhawks. You have Svechnikov, who I think is going to be a stud winger for that team. You have some good depth, guys like Jordan Stahl, Justin Williams, and Morgan Geekie. I think their defense could maybe be just a little better, but I still think you got some names there, which is good. But the goalie, not having a goalie, is going to kill them. You can't rely on Peter Mrazek to get you through a playoff run. It's not possible. So I think
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I think the Hurricanes are going to be a good team for a while. This isn't their year. Until they find a goalie, they're not going to be a serious contender.
Yeah, they have average guys in net. I think what they missed a prime opportunity with another. This is again the Tuca news didn't really phase me as much as when Zdeno Chara almost broke David Pasternak's rib or chest or something when they did a chest bump before warmups, and that's why Pasternak hasn't played the last 2 games. That was a huge opportunity that Carolina missed to take Game 3, especially with a guy in Pasternak who was one of, if not the best goal scorer in the NHL during the regular season, and one of the best players offensively. So they are missing out on an opportunity there, especially with the suspect goaltending, like you've mentioned. So I agree for the future, and there's a couple teams like Carolina too that are almost there, that are in this playoff field, that are like a step away, that are still playing well, and I'm sure we're going to talk about those other teams too. But let's talk about a different team. I'm starting to get upset about the Bruins.
The winner of your series, who most likely will be the Bruins, they're going to play the winner of the Islanders and Capitals series, and it's going to be Glenn Denegris' Islanders. They're up 3-0.
Can you correct, or can you do they reseed after every round, or did I not remember that correctly?
I can look it up. Well, I mean,
I can fact check that. I got that.
Well, Matt, I'll ask you this actually. The Capitals, they're a very good team. I like the Capitals. I don't think they're as strong as they once were when they won the Cup, but they still have good players on the team. The fact that they're down 3-0 to the Islanders, and this isn't, I don't want to disrespect the Islanders. The Islanders have talent, and I understand that, but to be down 3-0, it's a little surprising. I mean, they lose game 1 4-2. They lose game 2 5-2. Game 3 today, it was an overtime loss, so at least it was a little closer, but they haven't looked good at all.
Yeah, I so just to verify, teams will be reseeded after the first two rounds of the playoffs.
Okay.
Um, so I guess that's why the bracket looks kind of weird right now. Uh, it's not the Caps year, that's for sure. The Islanders were a team too that it's not. They played well. They also got a really easy first round draw against the Florida Panthers in the qualifiers. I'm very surprised, and especially with some of the leads that Washington has had in some of these games. It's like clockwork, Ryan. Right? So every year we expect our to do our taxes. We expect thunderstorms in the summer. We expect all kinds of stuff. The Capitals underperforming in the first round of playoffs has to be on that list, regardless of if they're going to win the Stanley Cup or get swept. They physically and mentally just cannot play in the first round of any playoff. And I don't know if that was just an April thing, but now we're clearly seeing that's not just an April thing, like a monthly thing, because it's happening right now in August. It's like clockwork. It was the same way with the Nationals. It's like any DC team just physically can't get out of the first round. And then the Wizards kind of proved that wrong, winning a couple series early in our college days. But I don't know, man. The Capitals there's something. There's something, especially with all the talent they have. Granted, a lot of it's older talent, but that should help you in a scenario like this when you have 4 months off. So it's a mess.
Game 4 is Tuesday, 8 p.m. So you can catch that on NBCSN. And the Islanders are going to try to sweep the Washington Capitals, which I can't imagine anybody predicted before this started. Moving on up here, the 2-7 matchup has probably been one of the better matchups out of all the matchups so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Tampa Bay, who are the 2 seed, and Columbus, the 7 seed. The first game, everybody knows, 5 overtimes. It pushed the Bruins game back to the next day at like 11 a.m. Tampa Bay won that one 3-2. Columbus comes back on Thursday, so basically a day later, and they win. They get the series knotted up 3-1 before Tampa Bay won yesterday 3-2 to take the 2-1 series lead. Game 4 is technically today at 3 p.m. on Monday. So I really think Columbus has a chance here, Matt. I know Tampa Bay is so talented. I know that their offense, they got guys at every level that can hurt you, and they can put the puck in the net. Now, I know that they're without Stamkos right now, but even without him, they're still so deep everywhere. Their defense is top tier. You have Hedman, McDonough, Sergachev, Shattenkirk. You have Vasilevsky in the net, and you have a really good backup goalie in case anything happens to Vaz. This Tampa Bay team is scary, but I'm gonna say, but I think Columbus, they're spooky too. I'm gonna use that adjective again. I really think that Columbus is spooky. I really think that they're my dark horse team, man. I really think they can make a run. I really like having Bjorkstrand. He was injured for a lot of the year, but now he's back. I like him on that first line with Dubois. Their defense, I think, is pretty solid. Now, obviously, they don't have Bobrovsky anymore, so the goaltending is going to be, that's always going to be an issue, especially now that Merzlikins is out. But I mean, he's been out for a while. But I think they can. I think they can steal some games here and make it a tough series.
Yeah, didn't they sweep Tampa Bay last year in the first round?
They did. So this is the revenge series.
And Tampa Bay at the time, didn't they? I don't know if they won the President's Trophy, but they were by far the best team in the East going in. I look at this series and it's very entertaining, and I unfortunately have missed a lot of it because of work and other stuff. But it's definitely a lot of talent on paper for both sides. I agree that Tampa Bay is stacked from top to bottom. They're the Los Angeles Dodgers of the National Hockey League. The Bruins fan in me wants Columbus to win, but I want sports to be back and entertaining side of me wants Tampa Bay to win. So this could be a coin flip. I think Game 4 is going to really dictate a lot in terms of the tone of the series and kind of just how these teams approach it the rest of the way. I think Game 4, just as much of a Game 5, is critical I think Game Fours are as well, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I say you could tell me Columbus would win, you could tell me Tampa Bay would win. I'd believe both, just based off the way they played so far.
Now, the final Eastern Conference game Sunday night was Philadelphia and Montreal. The series was knotted up 1-1. Philadelphia, I'd say barely won the first game. They looked good for maybe a period, and they didn't look good for the other two periods. They won 2-1 thanks to Carter Hart. Game two, just nothing went right. It didn't look like they had any drive, no motivation. They were making a lot of mistakes, just really sloppy. Carter Hart got pulled. I don't think it was all his fault, but they needed to make a change. And eventually Philadelphia got shut out. They lose 5-0. But they came back today. They scored a goal in the first period. It was Voracek, and that's all they needed. Carter Hart shut out the Canadiens in Game 3, the youngest Flyers goaltender to record a playoff shutout at 22 years old and 3 days, which is when I see stats like that, it really makes me kind of contemplate what I'm doing with my life. At 23 years old, I'm just sitting here talking to a microphone. He just shut out the Canadiens in front of a national audience on NBC. Game 4 is Tuesday at 3 p.m., so a little afternoon game there, which will be nice. I don't have to stay up late. Well, I'm up anyway, I suppose.
It's 12:25 in the morning right now. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I think the Canadian story is an interesting one, especially because now they're playing for their coach, who had to unfortunately leave the bubble. Although now I hear that he's resting. He should be okay. But I don't know, Matt. I don't want to be biased, but the Canadians were the lowest seed out of every team that made the bubble. I think they're an interesting story, but I think the Flyers shouldn't have any issues. I think they should win this in 5.
No, yeah, Montreal is on my list of teams that followed with the question of who invited them to the bubble. So I think you're all right. You talk about Carter Hart being 22. Me at 22 years old, I'm pounding down Big Macs at like 1 a.m. when I get home, and watching, like, I don't know, Star Wars. So, and he's in Toronto making hundreds of thousands or I don't know what his contract is. It can't be too ludicrous, but either way, at least 6 figures to play hockey at an elite level. So got to give him props. We're at that age now, Ryan, when we're going to start to be older than professional athletes. So I hope you're ready for that. But you should win in 5 games. I don't really see an issue with that.
I want to pivot to the West now. I'm going to get the first series out of the way. I'm surprised that Vegas did not sweep Chicago. Chicago actually did pick up a win today, or yesterday, whatever you want to say. I'm going to say today. They picked up a win today.
Recently.
Recently. There's a good word. 3-1 was the final score. So it's going to go 5 games. Game 5 is on Tuesday. Vegas is probably my pick right now to win the cup. They're very deep. They have depth at all levels. They can kill you a lot of different ways. They have a great goaltending duo in the Flower, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Robin Lehner. I don't know, Matt. I can't pick a team, and I know it's the Stanley Cup playoffs, and anything can happen, especially now that they're in the bubble. I can't find a team that's better than Vegas in this group of 16.
No, I agree. I was able to catch a couple of their games that were on late at night. I think this was their first loss in the bubble too. They're just really solid. I don't want to spend too much time on them. They got a former Bruin there, and Riley Smith. Always got to represent him. They're good. They've been hanging around ever since they came in the league. So this might be the year, and I might tend to agree with you there, depending on where Tampa Bay kind of goes. I think that's going to be probably the only team that I think that could rival them in terms of talent. Maybe Colorado if they could put it together too. But
I'm glad you brought up Colorado, because that's the team I want to talk about next. They're in a series with the Coyotes, the Avalanche, the 2 seed, Coyotes number 7. Colorado won the first 2 games of the series, but Arizona came back on Saturday and won 4-2. Game 4 Monday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So I think Arizona, they're kind of an interesting team that's not quite there yet, but you can kind of see what they're starting to build. But the Avalanche, they have what might be the best first line in hockey with Landeskog, McKinnon, and Rantanen. They have a lethal power play. They actually have goaltending, which is a big thing. I think their defense is very good. Cale Makar is going to be a stud. I'm so happy. I don't want to talk about my fantasy teams a lot when we do this podcast, but I have him on my keeper league in hockey. So I'm very happy I have him. He's one of my favorite players in hockey. He's going to be so good for the next decade plus, barring injuries or anything. But this Colorado team, they're very fun to watch. I think they might be my favorite team to watch in the NHL, even before the bubble. I enjoyed watching their games. I think Arizona, as I said, they're a solid team, but I don't think Colorado should have too much trouble with them.
Yeah, my analysis on Colorado will be as quick as the adjective I will use to describe them: fast.
Ooh.
They're a very quick team. I guess that's what helps when you have a lot of young guys out there as well. Which I guess some of them aren't that young anymore. You look at guys like McKinnon, and he's been in the league for longer than I anticipated. When I thought I still see him as a young player, and I guess he is, but it's a team that is going to be there and is fast and could play with a lot of teams, and especially playing the amount of games that you are in such a short amount of time, to have a team that's quick and has players that are speedy in that top line, as you mentioned. It's going to be a challenge for any team underneath of them. And if teams get reseeded, I'm looking at Dallas. I don't think Dallas poses much of a threat. I don't think Calgary or Vancouver or St. Louis. We're looking at a Vegas and Colorado West final, I'm thinking here. I think that's what we're aiming towards, to make it easy on the casual fan. Yeah, I like Colorado. I've liked them, as you have too, since before the bubble. They always give the Bruins problems too, so there's that.
Now, I don't want to disrespect any fans of the next four teams that we're going to talk about, because I do like each of these teams for different reasons. But Matt, I think you put it best. We're on track for a Vegas and Colorado Western Conference final, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. We don't want to disrespect Calgary and Dallas. We don't want to disrespect St. Louis and Vancouver. They're all very talented. Obviously, by the way, your score update, it's now 2-2. The Blues and the Canucks in the second intermission. Perron scored for the Blues. Pettersson for the Canucks. Another guy that's going to be very, very good for a long time. But I don't know, I'm watching the Stars and the Flames series. It just seems, compared to what I see from Colorado, what I see from Vegas, the teams are just on different levels. Like, you have Colorado and Vegas, they're all the way up here. Dallas and Calgary are good, but they're on another tier. And I don't think that's unfair to say.
No, yeah, I personally pull for Calgary and Vancouver each time they make the playoffs. I'm a huge Johnny Hockey fan, so I will always. That might be my next hockey jersey that I get. I'm a huge Johnny Hockey fan. I love what Vancouver's doing. I have no disrespect after beating them in the Stanley Cup all those years ago. I like a lot of the young guys they have there now. I will pull for those two teams, but it's going to happen, Ryan. And we're going to look like real experts when that doesn't happen in 2 weeks, but it's where we're heading. And
listen, if I'm wrong, sue me, but I don't see it.
Well, St. Louis obviously won the cup last year. Don't remind me. They've had issues with Jordan Bennington, who isn't starting anymore. They've had some issues there. He's not able to replicate the same magic that he had last season, and they haven't. And you could correct me if I'm wrong. They haven't won a game in the bubble yet. They fell to the 4 seed and just haven't looked anywhere where they did last year. So all four solid teams, but they'll play good against each other, but not against the top dogs. So
yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. I agree with you. So,
but if you ask us in 3 years, Vancouver might be in that conversation. Calgary might be in that conversation.
100%.
Yeah. So ask us in 3 years about those two, for sure.
So we have been talking. It doesn't feel like it, because me and my co-founder Matt here, we can talk forever about sports. We've been going on for almost an hour and a half. So we're gonna give one segment in here before we end, and in the future episodes we'll get in some more. We're gonna do start, bench, cut. So Matt, this was a concept from your one of your college radio shows.
Don't put it was an umbrella of multiple people. We're gonna give a shout out. And
Okay.
credits to Glenn DeNegris, Warlands Francois, and Ronnie Moses, hosts of Monday Morning Quarterback, the Nick
Mm-hmm.
Messina talk radio class. So we're and Glenn, if you want to come on and do a segment with us, so you're not like all offended and stuff, be our guest. Literally be our guest. So we're going to try and carry the tradition on here with this.
Mm-hmm. So today for Start Bench Cut, we are doing. This was Matt's idea.
We
We are
should
doing.
we should probably we should probably explain what this is too for the average for whoever doesn't know. We're taking three things, okay,
Mm-hmm.
three things in life, and we're going to start one of them. So that means we really like this one thing. We're going to do this one thing or eat this one thing, whatever it is. Bench one thing is we don't necessarily, we're not opposed to it, but there's reasons why we don't like this one particular thing. And then cut
Yeah.
means we're just getting rid of it altogether, get it out of my face, we hate it kind of thing.
That was a great explanation. Great job.
Thanks.
So you're welcome. Matt came up with summertime activities, which I think is good. Summer, if you can believe it or not, is almost over. We got about a month left, so this is probably a good time to do it. So the three that we have today for Start Bench Cut are grilling, fireworks, and beach. So, Matt, how did this work? I forget how this worked on Monday Morning Quarterback. Does everybody say they're three, or do you go one at a time?
You go three, I
Okay.
believe. So we're gonna go. Actually, that was so long ago, I forget. Let's just you give me your three, and then I'll do mine. That's
Okay.
how we're gonna do this.
What order do we go in here? Do we do start first, or we do cut?
You could do any order you want. You can do
Oh,
any order you want.
oh, wow, that's a lot of pressure, a lot of options here. So, for my Start Bench Cut, I'm gonna start the beach.
Oof.
I really do like the beach. I have not gone this year. I
Better
really
not
was
have.
I was really looking forward to it because I went. I mean, my aunt and uncle live at the beach, so we get to hang out with them, which is always a fun time. I was really looking forward to it this year, but so hopefully next year I can get back down there and kind of enjoy the ocean, enjoy just the beach and hanging out and just having a good time. Nothing's better than a day at the Jersey Shore, and I strongly believe that.
I strongly disagree. It's the
Well,
only it's the only state that you got to pay to get on the beach.
that's fair. That's an issue that I have with it as well. But
Ludicrous. Pay like $10 to go sit on hot sand.
that is my issue as well.
Yeah.
But I still hold true to the fact that there's nothing better than a day at the Jersey Shore. I really enjoy it. Benching, I'm gonna bench grilling. So I don't eat red meat, so I don't eat any burgers or stuff like that. I also don't eat hot dogs or anything. So people might be wondering, well, what do you grill? Let me tell you, grilling chicken, there's a lot you can do when you grill chicken. You can also grill corn on the cob. Recently, we've started grilling pizzas, which has been
What?
really, really
Wow.
good. It's really good. I'll tell you.
I
So
guess that plays.
you know that I have my ultimate pizza list. The pizza that we make on the grill, that's pretty high up there on the list. It's a very good pizza. It's better than a lot of pizzas that I've eaten. So
So do
grilling,
you cook it in the oven and then finish it
No.
on the grill, or do you
No.
just put the flabby dough on the grill? How does that work?
so we get pizza shells from, I think it's a bakery.
Okay.
It's near Atlantic City. So we get pizza shells, and you put some oil on it, put it down on the grill, flip it over, put some oil on it, then you put on your sauce, then you put on your cheese, close the grill, keep checking it every so often.
Interesting.
So it's
Grilling
good.
pizza. When are we
It's-
going to get you a hot dog? That's what we need to do.
We're not. That's a later. That's not
Alright.
today. Not today. And then obviously I'm gonna cut fireworks. I don't want it to sound like I don't like fireworks because in the right context I think they're pretty cool, but I usually don't go out of my way to go watch fireworks like some people do. Like some people like to make a nice evening out of it. Like they just bring their little blanket and put it on the grass so they can look up at the sky. And listen, if that's you, that's cool, but that's not me. If there's, sometimes I might like peek my eyes out of my blinds, like if there's fireworks going off in my neighborhood. If I'm at a baseball game or a sporting event and they have them after the game, okay, whatever.
No, you
I don't
got to
know.
do the John DeLuca method and get out of there before the fireworks start to beat the traffic on 295. That's what you
that-
got to do. You got to do John
That's the way
DeLuca
to do
method.
it.
Yeah.
I agree with John DeLuca. It's I don't know. I feel like once there's certain exceptions. I'll say that, but I feel like once you've seen fireworks a few times, that's enough. Like they're really not all that different. Now, as I said, there's a few exceptions. Some places they put on these really elaborate fireworks things. That's cool. But for the most part, I don't know. I could go a whole summer without needing to see fireworks.
All right, Ryan, I'm going to paint a picture for you here.
Oh
It's a
boy,
nice
one of these.
83-degree day. Nice
Okay, I got
breeze coming through.
I
It's
got
like
my eyes closed, so you better do this well.
5:30. It's like 5:30. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
Saturday. You got Mumford and Sons playing in the background, or some whatever summer. Bruce Springsteen. There you go. You got Bruce Springsteen playing in the background, right?
Got it.
You're playing cornhole. You have like the Phillies game on the radio. You open up your
Mm-hmm.
grill and a nice sizzling burger, Ryan. Does that entice you at all yet? A nice sizzling burger on the grill.
You throw chicken burger on there. Okay, I still got this picture.
All right. Some form of a bird
Perfect.
on the grill. Some bird grilling in form of a patty. That's why we're starting grilling. Then you have a nice beverage of whatever you like to drink in the summer. You know, I'm personally still a water guy. I am on the water kick right now. And ginger ale, water
Hydro.
and ginger ale.
There you go.
But
Be a hydro homie.
it's the doing the TB12 method. So that's why you're starting grilling. It's the only thing you do in the summer, other than go to watch like baseball games or, for some people, the beach. But I'm cutting two things. I'm breaking the rules of our own segment.
Whoa.
Breaking the rules. I'm cutting two things,
You
especially
can't do that.
this year. Okay, I'm gonna paint another picture for you. Right, it's 95 degrees out. It's the middle of July. Oh, let's go to the beach. Okay, great. Let's drive an hour up on I don't know, the Atlantic City Express, whatever you take to get to the beach, right? Whether you're going up in Monmouth County or down near Ocean City or even in Cape May if you're that crazy. You get there, right, Ryan? It's like 11:30 in the morning. You woke up early. You didn't put sunscreen on. And you can't find parking. Why, you might ask? Because beach towns can't support the amount of people that come in, and you're going to have to pay for parking somewhere that is far away from where you got to go. Then all the food that you're going to eat there is overpriced. You're going to roast out on hot sand because you have to pay by the state of New Jersey to go on a beach. You're going to pay to sit on hot sand, and especially this year, the beaches are like the Corona tank, man. You don't want to go on a beach now, so I'm cutting the beach. In past years, I would have benched it, but this is the special exception. I'm cutting the beach, and I'm also cutting fireworks because I don't want to hear loud banging in the sky at 10 o'clock at night when I'm trying to enjoy, a nice little movie and relaxation time. Fireworks are boring. They're dumb. If you want me to follow the rules, I'm benching the beach. But this year, especially with this whole pandemic, I'm cutting them both. I don't need the beach. I went to school on the beach. I never went to the beach while I was at school.
Oh,
So there you go. I went to the boardwalk, but that's not
What?
the beach. I went to the boardwalk, but that's not the beach.
I went to my beach the beach the second day I was there. It was the second day I was there.
Nah, not for me. I went one time. I ran on the beach in 40-degree weather with Hot Take Mike, and that was the only time I did it. I felt like Rocky, but then my feet hurt for a week. So cutting both of them.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
that's it. That was start bench cut for
That's
man. I don't know how we're gonna keep doing this. That's oh man.
cut the beach, man. It's
You
the
don't
same.
you don't cut the beach. You're not from New Jersey if you cut the beach. You're not from here.
Why I tell people I'm from Philly, so it's just
No.
you gotta stay on brand. You gotta stay on brand, man. It's
No.
why, but it's just. And then you come home, and then there's like sand in your flip flops, and it's in your car, and the sand's you gotta vacuum your car afterwards. It's a hassle. If you're not driving to the beach, it's a great day. But if you're driving to the beach, you're a sucker for doing that. So there you go.
I don't. No, we're gonna have no. Okay. Well, that was episode number 1 of Best Available Player. As we said at the beginning, which was over an hour and a half ago, we're planning to interview people in this as well. So ideally, for an episode, we talk about sports for not as long as we did in this one. We bring on a cool guest to interview. And as I said, we have a list of people that we're going to reach out to, so hopefully they get back to us in a timely manner because we really would love to bring them on. We talk to them about what's going on in their lives, careers, stuff like that. Hopefully have a good interview, and then we'd end with a couple segments, kind of like start, bench, cut, just some fun, lighthearted stuff. Just a fun way to end the show. But that was episode number 1. Matt, thank you for doing this until 12:45 at night it's on Monday morning, because Matt worked a lot today. I didn't. I was just posted up here all day, but he had a long day of work. So thank you for getting on here and doing this tonight. And thank you for listening to this first episode of Best Available Podcast. Be sure to check out all of the other content we have here if you haven't already at bestavailableplayer.com. We have 4 other podcasts right now. One is coming very soon. We have Soundtown, which I'm very excited about. That will be hosted by Russell Sarminaro, who provided the intro music for this podcast, and Eric Paris. They'll be talking music, interviewing people in the industry, in the DIY kind of scope too, the indie scope, which will be really, really cool. I'm really excited to hear that. Jabberjays has their first episode out, so definitely go listen to that. That's Jillian and Justin talking about everything you need to know about pop culture. I listened to their entire first episode. It was great, so go give that a listen. We have Forward Progress with Sophia and Caroline. They have a little teaser episode up right now. It's a really short listen, but it's really good, so go check that out too. That way you can know what to expect from them as they start to get more podcast episodes together. Entry-level Experience, that'll be with Zach Cosenza and Noah Prochelle. That'll be kind of a real-life podcast. You know, we'll tap into real life on this podcast here and there, but they'll talk about social life, dating, finding a job, anything that happens in their lives. You can listen to them talk about it there. It should be really relatable and really good. We have a bunch of written content. As I said, we have a team of 20 people, including Matt and I. So we'll have a bunch of content being pushed out every single day. You never want to miss it, so be sure to check the website every day. We'll have video content soon. Anything that you could possibly want, we'll have here. So, Matt, did I miss anything?
No, you hit it all.
Perfect.
Very solid outro there. We got everybody some shout outs. Also check out our website, designed by the very talented Mr. Michael Orlando. So we got to give him a little,
how did I forget
plug.
him?
So he's been working on that for, I guess, 3+ weeks now. And the logo and everything, it's all Mr. Orlando. So got to give a shout out to him, and also that cool photo on the website, courtesy of another one of our friends, Allie Nugent. So yes. We got to give some plugs here and there too. But yeah, you hit it all. Excited. It's a start of a fun ride that won't take us to the beach.
Well, we're going to have to talk about that when the microphones are off. Thank you for listening to episode number 1. We'll catch you next time for episode number 2. Keep it real. Best available player.